Welcome to North Texas Networkers, a show about connecting people across the DFW Metroplex. As realtors, we get the opportunity to meet and work with a variety of interesting people.
And this is our chance to introduce you to them. Join us as we talk with our community influencers, share their inspiring stories, and reveal how and why they shape our local communities.
I'm your host, Carol Lee Gurney.
And I'm your co-host, Stacy Reevely.
Thank you for joining us. Welcome to North Texas Networkers, a show about networking and communicating with interesting people. I'm Carol Lee.
And I'm Stacy.
And we're so glad to have you here today. We are really excited to have Ron Bultongez with us today. He is a up-and-coming young artist. He's been on American Idol. He's played football. He's got an adorable 14-month-old son named James, and we want to hear his story today. So welcome, Ron.
Thank you so much for having me, y'all. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're so glad you're here today with us. So just tell us a little bit about your background, about your family, about your story.
I have an 18-month-old.
18.
I know it moves fast.
It goes quick.
But yeah, I mean, I guess a little background on me. I was born overseas in the Congo, in the DRC, Zaire, or when you call it, Kinshasa, Congo. And I guess because of the turmoil and all the craziness that happened overseas, and long story short, my family ended up finding refuge in America. It's a good place here.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we ended up here in America, and then
How old were you?
I was almost 10 years old, so I was old enough to remember, but young enough not to really realize the magnitude of what was really happening.
Right.
As I've gotten older, I was like, oh my gosh, is that what we went through? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd ever go back?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to go back, and I plan on going back. I've got a lot of, like, I don't know, I guess humanitarian, I don't know the proper word, just kind of service work that I want to do over there. But I want to become a U.S. citizen first, just because, you know, things are crazy over there.
Yeah.
And
So what do you think their biggest need is over there?
selfless people. That's kind of what, that's what that country needs the most. It's such a rich country in resources and minerals and land, and it's just a gorgeous place. So naturally, the selfish people have kind of torn the country apart, and it goes way back, you know, Congo's history. But there have been a lot of people who have done a lot to try and rebuild. But I remember I used to keep up with what was going on over there all the time, and I was reading this article, and it's just like the reason why no one talks about the Congo and the 50,000 people a month dying rate, you know, and is because there's no hope for the Congo. I was like, well, it's depressing.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of want to be one of those people that goes over there and instills hope. And, you know, just like a lot of professional athletes and musicians, they come from rough backgrounds, and they go big time, and then they come back and take care of mom.
Give back.
You know? And so that's kind of what I plan on doing for the country.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Very good. Well, when we first met you, it's been a couple years ago, we were at a gala for City House, which is a local nonprofit, and you got up on stage and kind of did a little impromptu couple songs, and we were just like, oh my goodness, who is this person? And found out that evening that you were embarking upon or about to start the American Idol journey. So tell us a little bit about how all that came to be and that path that led you there.
Well, and your involvement at City House, too.
Yeah.
So City House is one of, you know, after I came to the States, there was a lot of, again, more turmoil and just, long story short, just unhealthy dynamics at home. And got separated from my family and all that. And fast forward, I end up at City House. And that place and those people, the city of Plano, really, and that organization changed my life. You know, they took me in when I had nowhere to go and fed me when I had no food and clothed me, and they even provided transportation for like school or if you had work and stuff. And that was a huge game changer. And so anytime I can do a City House event or go to a gala and help fundraise or be involved anyway, I always try to be intentional about that. I think I was at this gala that I met you guys at. I wasn't scheduled to perform anything. It was just like, I think it was Dan Hunt FC Dallas, and the Lakers coach was there. All these different people were like, "Can we get Ron on stage?" I was like,
"You're so shy."
You never
were
want to
like
be the guy that like gets on stage doing someone else's performance.
It was the end of the night, though. I mean, it was pretty late in the evening.
They were cool with me getting on stage and singing and whatnot, and so it was fun. I enjoyed it. But that was right prior to American Idol, and that came about because, I was playing football in college. It wasn't working out because, I torn both of my knees when it was in a wheelchair from surgery. And then when I got back healthy, I wasn't eligible because I was 2 credits short when I transferred. And then when I was eligible, I got a concussion. It was just like constantly going against the grain. I was like, then my foster mother was like, you have a good voice. You could be a singer. I was like, I'm not a singer. Like, I'm a football player. I'm going to go be the next, Johnny Manziel minus all the
turmoil
and stuff, because I just love Johnny Manziel's football playing abilities and whatnot. But, I was a shorter quarterback. He was a shorter quarterback, so I wanted to go and beat Michael Vick and Johnny Manziel and not sing. And so then one day I decided, you know what? I'm just going to give it a shot. I dropped out of college. Unpopular decision. A lot of people who cared about me. I was like, I'm going to go and audition, with my foster brother's band and be their lead singer, the Wild Frontiers, who are also blowing up right now. I left school, we'd do the first rehearsal, and I was like, that's way too rock and roll for me. And I was like, I can't do this. I was like, well, I left school to do this, and it didn't work out. And then that's when I decided to kind of do this solo artist thing, and I was like, well, how do you obtain success in this thing? Oh, you have to go on one of those singing shows, because that's what I thought at the time. And so I auditioned for The Voice. I went down with a buddy of mine named Tristan, super tight from high school, and went down to Houston, drove 4 hours. You woke up 4:15 in the morning. You waited in line for 4 hours, auditioned for 45 seconds, and they were like, your voice isn't strong enough. I was like, oh, man. And then I was just like bummed. Then again, this persistency thing kicked in, and I was like, they're going to be in Philly. I'm going to book a flight to Philly. So I went back to the hotel, booked a flight to Philly, and met up with the same casting producers in Philly. So that was an NRG, and then I went to Pennsylvania Convention Center. Same deal. Wake up 4:15, wait for 4 hours, sing for 45 seconds, and it was like, no. I was like, dang. Come back to Plano again. And then it wasn't super close, but a little later on, I was like, well, they're going to be in Nashville. So my foster mom was letting me use her car, and I had a guy in Nashville that was like, oh, yeah, I'll fly you to Nashville, put you up. This industry's got a lot of empty promises. But none of that happened, and it was the day before I was supposed to be auditioning. I never heard back.
Oh.
And so I was like, well, I could stay here, or I could take my foster mom's car and tell her when I get back. And so I took the car and I just floored it to Nashville. And I auditioned, and I was like, I'm not taking no for an answer. And then they're like, yes, you are. I was like, okay. See you guys later. And then I came back.
Persistent, if nothing else.
Yeah, I came back, and then I was like, you know what? I could either sit here. It was like 9:30 p.m., and I was just sitting in my car. I was like, man, I gave up all this money to play football in college, and like, I got to make this thing work. And then I hit a point where I was like, you know what? I was in this 20 minutes in the car. I was like, I can either sit here and feel sorry for myself, or I could do something about it. So I kid you not, I went upstairs. I was living in downtown Plano, like Junction 15. Mm-hmm. Went upstairs, packed up some performing stuff, packed up a little mobile studio, threw it in the car, and I started driving the same car to Los Angeles.
She didn't want her car back.
Yeah, and everything's going great. Miss you, like, by the way, I'm in LA,
In your car.
Yeah. And, she was, I think that part of her was just like, Ron, what the? And then she's like, you know what? I love you, and I'm proud of you for following your dreams.
So I have a question in between all of this. Every time that you go back to the drawing board and you start over again, what do you do differently to prepare for the next thing when they say your voice isn't strong enough? I mean, do you take that advice and continue on with it? Do you dive in deeper? Yeah. What do you do differently? Well,
actually, after I finally started I took ownership of my career and my future, regardless of my past and all these things I could use for excuses. That's whenever the American Idol thing started happening. But you know, there have been different times in my life where it's just been like obstacle, adversity, and I always regroup back to Plano. And
Is that how you became the son of Plano?
you know, I think the Plano people just started really rallying up behind me, and that's kind of how that happened. And you know, I think it's just, from what I've been told, it's a good old underdog story that they, you know, they love to root for someone who's just like, if you're pulled over on the side of the road, people are more likely to help you. If you know, if you have your car in neutral when you're pushing it versus if you just got your hands crossed, you know. And but yeah, and I just kind of use every rejection as fuel, you know. And it also comes paired with the fact that I didn't grow up my whole life in America. I came from a third world country, and when you come to America and you really you mute all the noise and the disagreements, the politics, the religious, the sexual, social, all the things that differentiate people. You just zoom in on like what this country has to offer, and it's like, how can you not keep swinging? You can do anything in this country. And so that's kind of like, on one hand, I'm like, I just let it fuel me. It's actually it might be unhealthy. I might need to talk to like a psychologist about this, because it's like this anger. I don't know if I'm like, is this anger or drive? I gotta check myself. But whatever it is, it keeps me going. But so it's this drive / anger, maybe, partnered up with this gratitude for what this country has to offer. And I think those two hand in hand really have helped me push through a lot.
And then American Idol says yes.
Initially they say no.
Oh.
You know, like I auditioned for the judges in Madison Square Garden, New York, and Luke Bryan was all cheesing, and he was like, that's a yes for me, and you need 2 yeses from at least 3 judges to go through. And
Katie said you can't go wrong.
yeah, and you know, Katy Perry was not a fan at first. She was like, I think you're talented, but you sound like a mimic. You sound like you haven't found who you are artistically yet. And I don't know, I was a little bitter about that. And but you know, I was like, she's been in the industry longer than me, so I respect her opinion, even though I disagree. And Katie and Lionel like didn't say anything for like 15 seconds. It was the longest 15 seconds of my entire life, because I was like, this could go 2 completely extreme ways right now. And Lionel starts talking to me about the Commodores. I was like, casual, Lionel Richie just talking to me about the Commodores, you know, like from the horse's mouth, right? And he was kind of like, you know, I think you're talented. And when I was starting out, I wanted to be like the next so-and-so. And so sometimes it's easy for artists to just mimic. And again, I was like, I've been in the industry 50 plus years, but I still disagree. I feel like I know who I am as an artist, but I couldn't really say that. I just like nodded my head, which is now turned into a GIF? A GIF?
A GIF of you nodding your head?
There's a GIF of me.
I'm going to have to go
whenever
find that
whenever they're telling me that,
For sure.
there's a GIF of me doing that. So now I use it in text messages sometimes. I feel like Kanye West. I'm like, that's just something Kanye would do.
Just nod the head.
But yeah, and so then they sent me home, and then they brought me back, and I got to go through Hollywood. So
when they send you home, did you actually go all the way back home?
No.
It's not like
no.
they just send you out and you come
yeah,
back
I
home.
mean, I was done. My run on the show was over. So you got to imagine like all the emotions and feelings I felt about possibly going to Hollywood and possibly doing the show, and then just all died then and there. And then it was revived when they brought me back, because I thought they were just gonna bring me back for an interview. I was like,
oh, so you didn't
and I was
know
like,
that?
Oh, why am I back in the judge room again? I was like, is this? No, it's not happening. Like that doesn't happen on the show. Like, and then I walk in, I get the chills right now thinking about it. Lionel Richie goes, I think we made a mistake. I was like, oh my goodness. I was like,
something's about to happen here.
Something, whether I make it on the show or not, something is about to happen.
Yeah.
And you know, this part wasn't aired, but Katie goes, you know, I literally had a question mark by your name, because I was just so on the edge. And they both collectively were like, you know, if you promise to bring Ron and just Ron to Hollywood, I think you deserve to be there. And handed me the ticket, and I was like, it's game on.
That's awesome.
So that's how that happened.
Very cool. So without mimicking people, though, who were some of your biggest influences in music? And
you know, it's kind of strange when I tell people what do you really like to listen to? Besides the occasional like link I get from friends, like check out my new song I released. I love supporting all my friends that are doing music. But if it were up to me, like when I'm in the car with my son, or if I'm driving around by myself, I listen to 101.1, which is the classical station.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of classical music, like Beethoven and, you know, it's like Genopedia is one of the songs I listen to, and Fur Elise, Moonlight Sonata, all that stuff. And then I listen to Kanye West. So none of the stuff I listen to actually is my music. I don't make any of that. So
That's interesting.
I don't really know where musically it comes from. I just know emotionally the stuff I create comes from my past. You know, so many things have happened to me where I have all this emotion to draw from, and it's strangely, as long as you learn an instrument and you match it with strong emotions, I don't think you need to really be like shooting for a certain artist's style. And so that's why, you know, when I cut my record Learning to Love and at Warner Brothers in Nashville with some of the best producers and musicians, you know, the drummers from like Paramore and Kelly Clarkson's guitarist, Keith Urban, Big and Rich's, all these musicians came together because they believed in me and the music I was making. And I was like, I've been waiting to be in a room with you people so I can finally ask, what genre am I?
Yeah.
You know, and then
it's a $1 million question.
I kid you not, the room goes quiet and they're scratching heads and looking at each other and they're like, I don't know what to call this. And I don't know how good or bad of a thing that is, but that's kind of been the story when people listen to my music. They're like,
are you blues? Are you
really
country? Are you rock?
They're like,
are you
there's
pop?
there's so much in it.
I can see that, but if now listening to what you listen to, I can see there's kind of a draw from that in there. That makes sense.
I love classical because it's so structured and every note's intentional. And then I love Kanye West because he's just so crazy.
It's not structured at all.
Like, he's just like, you're listening and you're expecting to go, and then whoa, and then you're over here, and then he takes you over here, and the production is just everywhere, and he just...
So let's go back to American Idol for a second.
Yeah.
Usually the judges will come on at some point and they'll say, hey, I really can hear your voice singing this. And so I thought I would make up my own, I'd love to hear your voice singing.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Khalid, how about Young, Dumb, and Broke?
Yeah, that's a good song. My friend Harper, actually, from McKinney, she auditioned with that song, and she put a cool little country spin on it. This is Noel.
That's Noel, your guitar.
Hi, Noel.
I'm gonna pull my the lyrics real quick.
Okay.
But Khalid is really, really talented, and kid can't believe he's like 19.
Yeah.
Doing amazing things. Let's see. Young. Also, when I listened to that song, I was like, speak for yourself. I'm not young or dumb, but I mean,
I think you're correct.
The latter option is debatable. Okay.
Young is relative too.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, this is gonna be interesting.
All right.
So you a big Khalid fan, or you just think that's
no, I do.
what
My
I sound
son's like, you like him a lot, don't you? I really do. I just like the tone, sound.
So you still thinking of me, just like I know you should. I cannot give you everything, you know I wish I could. I'm not high at the moment, I'm so caught up in this. Yeah, we're just young, dumb, and broke. We still got love to give, 'cause we're young, dumb, and broke. Young, dumb, and broke. Young, dumb, and broke. Young, dumb, broke high school kids. Young, dumb, broke high school kids.
Very good. Awesome.
A little Khalid for you.
Very good. So we hear you're into fashion. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Super into fashion. I love, so my culture, just like the Congolese people, I've noticed that in America, it's like commendable and remarkable when a man is super fashionable. But in the Congo, it's like, what do you mean you're not fashionable?
Really?
It's like all the men there and the women. It's like dance, fashion, and it's just a whole different world over there. And so I always watched my mother, growing up, creating. And I mean, when I say creating, I mean like sewing and like really creating all these awesome, clothing, all this just, and the clothing's different too. Like there's like I don't know what to call it in English actually. Like there's because I grew up speaking French, and there's something that called a panya, and she would wear it. It's like a wrap thing and the head thing, and she would just all these colors and fabrics, and so that's kind of where my love for fashion began. And then it was really heightened by Kanye West again, because he's one of those guys who's willing to try anything. And so I'm really I like to be fashionable for me, but as far as creating, I love women's fashion. Maybe that, again, never thought about this. Probably that comes from my mom also. Yeah. But there is actually a specific dress that I've been designing since 2015. It's called Infinity, Infinity dress. And I've been so slowly but surely about the whole thing, because, it's like, I feel like just like my music and my songs, this dress is like my baby. And I want to create, I don't know how good of a business move this is, but I want this dress to be affordable for everyone. So I want to create like 3 kind of fabric tiers, and, material levels. There's like going to be 3 price points. So for my, my friends and who prefer the simple life and don't have millions of dollars in their accounts can afford it. And then the more well-off people, who get involved with real estate and stuff can afford it. And then like my friends that I meet in Beverly Hills and stuff, they'll probably want,
some of it too.
That,
Speaking of fashion, because you look really fashionable today, I think your 18-month-old is matching you today. Is that right?
Yeah, he kind of has a thing where I wake up, he wakes me up in the morning, and then I look, he's kind of got our outfits picked out, and he picks them out, and I just kind of do what the kid says,
Do what the kid says. That's awesome.
Some would say that's not good parenting, but
we should bring him in here.
Absolutely.
I think everybody needs to see how cute he is.
Yeah, baby James.
Baby James.
Hey, Anna, you got a cute little kid out there?
Yeah, it's he's on his way.
He's on his
taking
way.
him to the studio.
Awesome.
Will be a second.
Okay, baby James is going to join us. So, tell us a little bit. What's something that maybe in the past that has fueled you? You've talked a little bit about being told no. Is there anything else?
James.
Oh,
come here, James. There he is.
Looky there.
Come on up, James. Oh, see.
Hi, James.
How are you today?
Don't know how long we're gonna keep him still here, but so the question is.
Well, just something that has fueled your desire to continue on, and I think he's sitting in your lap right now.
Yeah, and so it used to be like this.
Hi, James.
It used to be this, like this fire, this rejection thing, and wanting to succeed. And I still want to succeed, and I still have that drive. But the moment that I found out about James, he always plays the guitar.
He does. He loves it.
The moment I found out about James, it was just like this new motivation and drive that was kind of born with the idea of him. So wanting to give him a life that he deserves and a father that I think every child deserves is a huge motivating factor for me. And just to be able to one day just be like, I was passionate about something and I followed my dreams, and to lead by example and make him feel like he can do the same thing regardless how crazy that dream might seem.
Yeah.
Because to become a major level artist and to write songs that impact millions of people, a lot of people think that's a really crazy dream. And so I don't want him to be afraid to dream big at all.
That's awesome. Very good.
What do you think?
He's exited this.
Yep. That's okay. Exit stage left.
Yeah.
See you later.
So what's next?
I think a diaper change here pretty soon is going to be next. Yeah. But as far as my career goes, I recently I was discovered, in Los Angeles. I was at a studio in Hollywood, and I met a guy. So when I'm in the studio, when I'm doing things like podcast interviews, or I like to kind of find the people that I know that probably are being ignored, or you know, the A-list artists or the celebrities don't pay much attention to. Just go thank them. You know, like, hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for what you're doing. And so I ignored a guy one time. I was like, oh crap, because I was rushing to a show, and I turned back around. I was like, hey, my name is Ron Bultongez. I'm so sorry I ignored you. I just want to introduce myself and hope you have a nice day. And that conversation developed. Little did I know I was going to meet the guy who would get me signed to this management company, and now we are in talking to different major record label, like the top 3, which is Warner Brothers, Sony, and Universal. And we're in conversations with smaller labels and medium labels and major labels, and so it's been life-changing. So to answer your question, what's next is just continuing to write songs that really connect with people. I've got a song right now that I think is going to impact a lot of people, and everyone's excited about. Yeah, I was like, you know what? I think I'll give him a portion of the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and so it's writing these songs, recording a lot of demos just so I can have an idea of what they sound like, and then sharing these songs with people while we are putting together this, which major label am I going to go with, and where are we going to start the tour. We're definitely, I've expressed to them, I'm like we can tour everywhere. Like, so we're putting all that together, and so that's kind of what's next. I guess hope that answers the question.
Very good.
Very nice. Before we go, because this will be kind of closing us out pretty close,
Yeah.
I do want to plug our next show, which is going to be next month, always the third Tuesday at 11 o'clock, Facebook Live and Instagram as well. We'll be having Mike Hawkins, who is a former NFL player and also has his own charity here. He'll be telling us about, he's got quite a story too. So we'll look forward to having him next month. But let's close it out with Ron Bultongez. We're so glad to have you here today. Thank you.
We appreciate you being
It's been
here.
fun. It's been really fun. Sometimes I do like podcast interviews, and it's like there was no creativity in any of the questions. So I really appreciated your questions today. And
Good.
but this song is last September I ended up in a hospital just because I was such a all-time low mental health wise, and I met someone in there whose story just really touched me, and I wrote a song. So it was a combination of her story and other women in my life who've been impacted by all this craziness, and I wrote a song called Secrets and Stuff. You were barely a teen, and your father did things no man should ever do. And the scars that you wear, like bow ties in your hair, you wake up and fake it with so much makeup you hate it. And I know no one understands your pain. Nobody has had to face your demons. And yes, I know when you listen up real close, underneath the songs you sing, you're screaming. I don't have to understand you to be there for you. In the darkness I still feel you, I still see you. You're like a diamond on the moon. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Awesome. Wow.
Thank you.
Very touching. Very meaningful. That's great.
Yeah, I don't know when that'll come out yet,
Yeah. That's
but
awesome.
it's
beautiful.
in the works right now.
Very good.
Comes out when you decide what you do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for having me, y'all.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, we're so glad to have you, and
Yeah.
we'll close that out with that. Be sure to visit us.
Yep. We're going to be, visit us at the Mariposa Group on Facebook.
And we look forward to next month's guest, but we're so glad again to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank
and we're
you.
glad to have James as well.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All right,
We're
I'm
glad to be his first podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
I'm Carolee.
And I'm Stacy.
And we're
We are your
real
real
estate
estate professionals. Thank you for joining us on North Texas Networkers.
Visit our website, mariposagroupdfw.com. That's MARIPOSA Group DFW.com for more information about the show and other resources. I'm Carolee.
And I'm Stacy.
And we are your real estate professionals.